Hi everyone, I'm Paige Abbott, and today I'm going to talk about emotions, identifying them and what they mean. Welcome back. A lot of therapists encourage their clients and teach their clients to feel their feelings. I know that this is a bewildering concept to a lot of people, and today I'd like to take a little bit of the mystery out of, for one, how come therapists encourage people to feel their feelings, and for two, learning a little bit more about what the emotions that we experience mean. For one, how come therapists encourage clients to feel their feelings? Well, the reality is that emotional energy that is created by our thoughts, our memories, our experiences is a huge generator of mental health and some would say even physical health symptoms that we experience. The more that energy gets backed up and compacted, the more ill we are likely to feel, whether that's, again, emotionally or physically, even cognitively. People will start to notice their memory decline, concentration issues, and other cognitive impairments when that emotional energy is backed up. So feeling the feelings is super important from an energetic release perspective. And people often overcomplicate this idea, thinking that feeling their feelings means they have to go to daily therapy for the rest of their life or something extreme like that, when really it means taking time every day to ask yourself, what were the feelings that came up for me today? Work on identifying those feelings. And for some people, that reflection and identification alone will be enough to help them release their feelings. And at other times, it may require some further intervention. So maybe writing about the feelings or talking about them with someone else. But those will typically be for feelings that are pretty sticky. So probably they've been hanging around for quite a while and have picked up momentum by attaching to other feelings that we've also encountered along the way. So essentially we have this mass of energy that we need to do something with. Now, I also have people who get a bit confused about the importance of feelings. So maybe they can understand that, yeah, so sure, there's some energy that builds up from feelings, and that might take me to some unhelpful places if I don't deal with it. But what about the feelings themselves? Is there any other benefit that they provide? And I would say absolutely yes. Feelings are an integral source of information for us. So feelings instruct us and teach us and guide us about how we're interacting with the world. So I'll cover a few of the primary emotions that we tend to experience just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So for instance, happiness. A lot of people will wonder, when is it actually appropriate for me to experience happiness? Well, happiness can come when we're excited about something. It can come when we've accomplished something, when we are spending time doing something that we really enjoy with people that we feel connected to. Happiness essentially cues us to a sense of satisfaction, that we are happy and enthusiastic and welcoming to our experience. And as you can see, feelings are connected. So within there, I used other feelings words to connect to that emotion of happiness. And that's the thing, that many emotions are overlapping, and hence the reason that we can experience multiple emotions at the same time. Sadness. What is sadness meant to convey to us? Well, sadness often instructs us that there's been a loss, which can come from a change, it can come from a death, it can come from something unexpected that came into our world that we're not exactly welcoming of, and that we may be disappointed or grieving the loss of. So sadness can feel like we're down, we're a bit melancholy, we might be sitting in that space of loss, grief, as well as perhaps some disappointment. There might be hurt in there, which might be connected to some feelings of abandonment or feeling like you've been neglected in some way. Guilt. This is an interesting one because a lot of people really struggle with the emotion of guilt. Either they feel it all the time or they think that it's an emotion that they aren't ever supposed to experience. And I would say that guilt comes at a couple key moments. So guilt does indicate when we have done something basically that's wrong. So it goes against our values, our morals, our beliefs, our expectations that we have for ourselves. So if I say something mean to somebody and I know it was mean, I know it was inappropriate, I will likely feel guilt, which is the appropriate emotion for that experience. However, guilt doesn't always necessarily say that we've done something quote unquote wrong. Guilt can also indicate when we've done something different. So people who are changing the boundaries and the dynamics in a relationship often will experience guilt, which they might have been trained to think is telling them that they're doing something wrong. And that makes them likely to then kind of negate their boundaries and go back to what they were doing before. So maybe somebody with a friendship that they've noticed isn't very helpful for them anymore, they start to just pull back a little bit, don't respond to messages as quickly, don't hang out as often, that sort of thing. And then they feel guilt, which they feel indicates that they're doing something wrong, when it really just indicates that they're doing something different than the precedent that was established in that relationship to date. So it is important with guilt to check that out with yourself and perhaps with other people to really explore, are you doing something that's a violation of the standards that you hold for yourself? Or are you pushing back against the status quo that's been established either in your own thinking and or in a relationship or something that's external to you? Shame. Most people don't like the emotion of shame. It's an uncomfortable one. It sits quite unpleasantly in us. It can often come with a lot of palpable physicalness to it in kind of the gut and the stomach region there. But what does shame indicate? Does it have any value? I would say absolutely yes. Shame is our indicator of where we are at in our relationship with ourselves. The more disconnected, the more kind of anti-us we are, the higher our level of shame is going to be. So if we're not liking or accepting ourselves, our level of shame is going to be higher. So the lower the level of shame, that often indicates that you're at a pretty good place in your relationship with yourself. And this may not be a global thing. It could even be shame that's concentrated in specific pockets. So perhaps you're feeling some shame about your role as a parent, or your role as a professional, or as a partner, or as a sibling or a child. These are specific forms of shame. It doesn't mean necessarily that globally you feel down on yourself, but in these key areas, perhaps you aren't feeling that you're at the place that you would like to be in your relationship with yourself. Anger. Another uncomfortable feeling that some people either want to drown in and experience all the time, or other people want to avoid completely. What does anger tell us? Anger is our key indicator when we've been violated, or when our needs have not been met, or when we've been neglected in some way. So you can kind of see those will come with different levels of intensity. So when we've felt neglected, we may feel anger, we may feel frustration, we may also start to feel some of that sadness, that hurt, that abandonment that I mentioned before. If we feel like we've been truly violated, then that anger, that fury, that rage may come as our internal defense mechanism to help protect us. So anger is very much an adaptive emotion. It gives us a lot of information about the safety of our environment and of our world. And so it's very important to listen to our anger. Having anger and experiencing anger does not mean that there needs to be a lashing out in anger. So we don't necessarily have to physically hurt somebody or verbally assault somebody because we're feeling angry. Learning how to navigate these emotions in a healthy way is definitely part of emotional coping and emotional intelligence. Another emotion that's quite common is fear. Fear tells us when there may be a very real threat that's around the corner. So that's good to know if we're actually scared of something that could threaten us, either physically, emotionally, financially, or in any other way. It's important that we be aware of that threat and take subsequent action to protect ourselves. Sometimes, however, fear can come in an anticipated fear or a perceived fear, and may also connect to things that aren't actually happening. So we might start to be fearful based on a story that's going on in our minds or something that we're imagining could happen. And this is where we start to move from fear into the clinical condition of anxiety, where we're now not responding to actually things that are happening in our environment and our world. We're responding to what ifs and things that are going on in our minds. So there is a big difference between the two. And for those who start to struggle with anxiety, some further support on learning how to navigate that and take care of yourselves within that is very important. Interestingly, fear can also come when we're anticipating change. So just when we're anticipating doing something different, that can be scary for people. So fear doesn't necessarily mean to stop. Obviously, if there's something that's very threatening, so threatening our life or our immediate safety, then it would be appropriate to stop. But if you're feeling fear because of maybe a new challenge that you're going to undertake or something new that you've never done before, then fear is a very appropriate and anticipated emotion to experience. But you will need to act through that fear in order to accomplish whatever the task or the thing was that you're starting to do. So fear isn't necessarily our indication to stop doing something. It's just an indication to stop and really evaluate, is there an immediate threat to my safety here? Or is my body just starting to kind of get me ready for this new challenge? And that brings me to the last emotion that I want to cover, and that one is stress. Some people are very used to using stress as a negative or a bad thing. You know, we're overwhelmed, we're feeling tired and fatigued by the things that are going on in our world. That's the common colloquial way that we refer to stress in our lives. And that is very much one side of stress. So feeling, like I said, overwhelmed, feeling burdened, feeling like there's just too much going on, or you feel like your boundaries are being maxed out, whatever the case is, there is that kind of stress which can have a detrimental impact on our health. There is also another side of stress, and it has been termed eustress, EU stress. And that's the side of stress that basically is helping us sort of motivate and anticipate getting ready to do something. So eustress would come when we're getting ready to do a new job, or maybe getting ready to do an activity for the first time, and just preparing us to do something that really, in the grand scheme, is quite exciting and is quite important for us. So it's not that negative, scary stress in the same way, but physiologically it may feel very similar. So I hope you're starting to see how important emotions are at conveying information and telling us where we're at with the world around us. It's very helpful to know if we're okay with things, if we're not okay with things, and to sort of gauge our actions based on how we're feeling. They can inform our boundaries, they can inform our relationships, our communication, our coping, whether we rest, whether we go, jobs we take, programs we take in school. Emotions are such a huge driver, and so I really encourage you to keep getting to know your emotional world. It's not something that needs to be seen as scary. I get that it can be overwhelming if it's something you've spent a lot of time avoiding or being afraid of. So that's why it would be important to find people who can be gentle and support you and educate you and inform you to help gently introduce you to this wonderful world of emotion. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's great to connect with all of you on here. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.